So you want to start an Etsy store. Well, here are a few things you need to know before you set up your shop. My name is Mars, like the planet, and this is Housewarmin. I just reached $10,000 in revenue for 2024, and today I'm going to share with you 6 things you need to know before starting your Etsy store. So, setting up an Etsy store may seem like a dream come true. It may seem like a way to make a second income, to make passive income. You may be an artist, you may be a creator, you may be a graphic designer, and you are looking to sell on Etsy. You've never opened up a store before, but what do you need to know? I'm going to try to give you the most honest truth. I'm going to try to tell you the really hard things that you need to know that people may try to tell you you can do, but you really can't do on Etsy. So number 1 is that Etsy is not a get rich quick scheme. I know there are a lot of people on TikTok and YouTube who show all these screenshots of all of this money that they've made. There are people that have made $10,000 like me. There are people that have made up to $1 million on Etsy. There are people that Etsy is their full-time job. And honestly, I would just stray away from those videos, even though I am touting that I have made $10,000 in revenue. I really don't want to conflate that with the idea that this was easy, that this was something that I did overnight. I started my Etsy store back in 2022. So it's been 2 years of actually working and building and trying to grow my store. This was not something that happened overnight. And honestly, if making money on Etsy was easy, everyone would be rolling in dough. So I really want you to understand that before you start your store, there are going to be a lot of videos that you come across showing you how you can make hundreds of dollars in 24 hours, in a few days, in a week. And you have to understand that those are just not true. And honestly, I just would not watch them. And you really have to understand that Etsy does take work and is not a get rich quick scheme, unfortunately. The next thing you should know before setting up your Etsy store is that, like I said, it does take a lot of work. So if you're busy, if you have a full-time job, if you have a family, if you have kids, if you have just life going on, trust me, I know it can be really, really busy out there. Etsy really may not be the place for you to sell. This is not something that you can just like set it and forget it. You really have to put the time and effort into listing your items, customizing and optimizing your keywords and your SEO, making sure that you're responding to customers, making sure that you're responding to people on time. You really cannot just take a week to respond back to people. Making sure that you're updating your listings and shipping your items on time or creating new products. It really does take a lot of time. Now, I will say that on average, I spend a few hours each day on Etsy. I may not always be creating new listings as I do sell digital products, but I am always kind of monitoring my store. I am kind of always making sure if people do send me messages, I am responding. If I do want to create something new, I'm on Canva creating a template. If I am trying to improve my listings, I'm looking at that. So Etsy does take time and effort. I think that is the general rule that I kind of want to implement to you guys, is that Etsy does take work. And no matter what people may say, no matter how many screenshots of really big numbers that people may show, Etsy is more of a business and not just a side hustle and a get rich quick scheme. So if you really don't have that much time in your day or in your week to devote to creating products for Etsy, then Etsy honestly may not be for you.
Before you start a print on demand or a digital product side hustle on Etsy, I would recommend asking yourself this one question. And that question is, are you looking for a side hustle or do you want to start a business? Because those are very different things. A lot of times I see people wanting to start print on demand or digital products because they think it's going to be a really quick way to make money overnight online. In reality, print on demand and digital products are business models and they deserve to be treated as such. That doesn't mean that it's impossible to do print on demand or digital products as a side hustle, but I do think that you have to be prepared when you go into them that you are going to have to treat it like a business in order to see results. Despite what so many creators on this app want to tell you, you're not going to start an Etsy store and make $10,000 overnight.
The next thing to know before creating your store on Etsy is that you cannot copy others. You cannot plagiarize. You cannot sell copyrighted works. You cannot sell trademarked works. You can't sell a lot of things on Etsy. People may think that Etsy is like eBay or Amazon where you can just fly under the radar and get away with a lot of things. But honestly, you will get your store shut down, and I really just do not encourage it. There are a ton of people breaking the rules on Etsy, and I'm never going to encourage you to be one of those people. You cannot sell anything that is copyrighted, whether it is movies, celebrities, famous people, even books. You cannot resell items. There are a lot of things that you cannot do on Etsy. And if you have an idea, I honestly honestly would encourage you to read the Etsy handbook before you decide to put all this work and effort into selling something. You really, like I said, cannot copy off of others. Trust me, there are a lot of niches on Etsy, so there are going to be people selling almost the exact same thing, but you cannot just take someone else's design and steal it. I know there's a lot of overlap sometimes, and trust me, I've tried it. I'm not even going to lie. I'm going to be fully transparent. I've definitely tried to take someone else's idea that I saw was really popular and decide to sell it as my own, and you just can't do that. People can find your listings and send you a takedown notice and take down your store. You also may think that there's a lot of things that you can get away with, and honestly on Etsy, there's a ton that you can't. Even if you see other people selling it, I would double and triple check that whatever you're looking to sell, if it is affiliated with a brand name like Marvel, like Disney, like Starbucks, like Walmart, any brand name, if it is associated with that, unfortunately, you can't sell it. Even if you're taking work and you're manipulating it or you're changing it or you're being creative, if you're, say you're making a really cool portrait of Mickey Mouse, you're selling something that has Mickey Mouse on it, and yeah, you can't sell that either. There are so many sellers that I see asking for feedback on their store, and it is just rampant with copyright infringement. It is just rampant with IP theft, and they think, oh, it's fine, it's okay, I saw everyone else doing it, so I can sell it too. And I really would just say to do your due diligence to make sure that whatever you're selling, it is not copyrighted, to make sure that it is not stolen from someone else. Honestly, I would just encourage you to make everything 100% on your own. Even selling digital templates, I do not sell any type of copyrighted material. I have to be super, super careful that everything I make, even though I do make it on Canva, which is perfectly fine, everything I'm making is from my brain, that is created by me. The next thing you need to know before starting your Etsy store is, honestly, you have to have a little bit of introspection. I would honestly say to be honest with yourself. Whatever you're thinking about creating or selling or marketing on Etsy, whether it is a print-on-demand shop or you're making your own handmade earrings, make sure your products are actually good. Unfortunately, I see a lot of people asking for feedback on their stores, and I have to honestly tell them, they're just not good. A lot of people think that, oh, this is so fun. I'm creating, I'm being creative. I'm selling my artwork. This is something I love to do. And it's like, just because you love to do something, just because something is a hobby, unfortunately does not mean that everybody wants to buy it and it's going to be flying off the shelves. I see so many people that create t-shirt designs that just aren't good, and I hate to be rude, but sometimes your designs just aren't good. So I honestly would ask your friends and family to be brutally honest. You could maybe even post it anonymously on Reddit to ask, for brutally honest critiques, because honestly, if your work's not good, it's just not going to sell. Or if your idea is not that popular, it just won't sell. And I don't want to encourage you to put all this effort and work into setting up an Etsy store just to be set up for failure. You honestly have to make things that people want to buy. You have to find a niche and find what people are buying. And honestly, if you do have an Etsy store already that's set up and you're wondering why you're not selling, I did just post a video about 9 proven ways to improve your Etsy store. These are 9 ways that I feel like most people can learn from and can learn on how to improve their listings, their keywords to get more sales. So I will definitely link that video down below. The next thing I would suggest is to not lean heavily on AI. I know these YouTubers and these TikTokers can really push using AI to get quick sales. And like I said earlier, Etsy requires a lot of work. It requires a lot of creativity, and it requires a lot of originality. If you think that you are going to just take AI images and slap them on a t-shirt, it's not going to get any sales. If you think that you're just going to take AI artwork, AI quotes, AI images and sell them on posters and coasters and mugs and all of those things and make all of these sales and make all of this money, it's just not going to work. There's so many people that encourage you to use AI, and honestly, I would just steer clear away from it. Now, don't get me wrong. I love ChatGPT just like the next person, but using AI art on Etsy is just really not something I would ever encourage, especially as an artist myself. Remember that AI is stealing from millions of creators to create an AI generated image. And then when you're selling that on Etsy, it's just literally not yours. And you just honestly can't sell that type of stuff on Etsy. Remember I said previously that you cannot sell just like stolen artwork. Honestly, I just would not encourage you to use AI at all. I really, really want to preach originality, creativity, and just creating your own products to sell on Etsy. And the last thing I think you should know before starting an Etsy store is not to do it because someone else told you to. I know that like I said, I keep preaching this, that there are so many people like me that are telling you that there's so much money to make on Etsy, and there really is. But if you don't have a drive and a passion to start a business, then I don't think Etsy is for you. There's so many people that are like, oh, this is such a quick side hustle and you can make so much cash and you can just blow up. And it's like, that is honestly a lie. These TikTokers and these Instagrammers and these YouTubers will just do anything to get you to watch their videos. These people that are on social media telling you this and showing you these screenshots, those screenshots can be fabricated. Unfortunately, they are trying to push a course. They are trying to sell you something. And honestly, a lot of these creators aren't even selling on Etsy. They're just telling you that it's a get rich quick scheme. They're not even really selling on Etsy, and they're just profiting off of you watching their videos on TikTok or on YouTube. So I really would not try to listen to these people that are trying to push you and trying to say, look, you can make all this money. Like, you need to go sell this thing right now and make so much money. And look, these are the 5 hottest things to sell on Etsy. You need to do Etsy because you want to do it, not because an influencer is telling you to do it. That is just my kind of reasoning for starting an Etsy store. I started Etsy because I have a passion for graphic design. I love creating, and I really had to take time. I'm an art major. I actually have an art degree, and I had to completely pivot my Etsy store and realize my designs aren't that good. I'm not making a lot of money, and I had to completely pivot and relearn how to actually win on Etsy, how to actually make sales on Etsy. And that was just from me learning and me putting in the actual work. So I know this video was a little bit short, but I honestly feel like I want to be honest with you guys because I know there is so much misinformation out there about Etsy. You see news articles about people quitting their job because they made $1 million on Etsy. You see influencers trying to sell you a course on how to win on Etsy and how to make all this money on Etsy. And before you start your Etsy store, I really hope that you take into consideration the reasons that I've listed. Remember that Etsy is a marathon and not a sprint. It really does take a lot of effort and work to put into your store to make it grow and make it successful. It's not going to happen overnight. It's maybe not even going to happen in a few weeks or a few months. And you may have to pivot. You may have to learn if you really are passionate about being an Etsy seller and actually seeing, 3 figures, 4 figures, even up to 6 figures. Now, I'm not saying that you can make that kind of money, but if you do put in the work, it's a possibility. So with that being said, I post videos every single Wednesday. I do have a few other videos that I have posted about Etsy, so I will link them down below. And if you do have any questions, if you're a new seller on Etsy, I do recommend joining the subreddit r/Etsy sellers on Reddit. If you want feedback on your store, if you have questions, they're a really fun group of people to be with. I'll be there anonymously, but they are a really fun group of people that are going to help you if you do actually have questions about your store. But once again, remember that you have to do the research. You have to put in the effort into your store and not do it because anybody else is telling you to. But I hope you enjoyed this video. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.